Rabbitohs Radio Podcast, the number one source for everything South Sydney Rabbitohs. Hello and welcome back to another edition of Rabbitohs Radio Podcast. I'm your temporary host for this one, Big Les as Chaps and Browny. They are away doing some work with Southeastern and you'll see that in coming days. But as I said, I'm your temporary host for this one. You won't have to stare at my ugly mug for too long, don't you worry. But we are going to go ahead and go through this Raiders and Rabbitohs game for this weekend. Super excited to go through it. I mean, it is going to be a very tough clash. It's probably going to be one of the better games of the weekend. And the reason for that is because South Sydney, they are playing for a lot over the next few weeks. The loss to the Dolphins the other week would have really hurt them. They're going to be coming in prepared to get the job done here against the Canberra Raiders. They cannot afford to lose any more games, and it is going to be an absolute clinic from some of these guys, especially some of the hard workers in this team, like Tane Milne, who over the past few weeks has killed it. Cody Walker and Jack Wighton, this combo is looking cleaner by the week. David Mawali through the middle, Keon playing a milestone game there in the middle as well. You've got so many hard workers in this side. Tallis Duncan, since moving to the edge, yes, there's a few defensive issues, but whether it be off the bench, whether it be starting, he has killed it. There's so many guys in this side that you can pinpoint that have had a huge impact on this team. Now, there is a little bit of mail going around before kickoff, and obviously you'll know a lot more than I do when this podcast comes out, or you might know a lot more than I do when this podcast comes out. But it looks like Havili will be playing the rotational hooker role off the bench. Peter Mamouzelos will come out, and we'll see Shaq Mitchell hop onto the bench here in jersey number 21. Peter Mamouzelos, he hasn't trained all week, and usually when you get to this stage of the week, and if you're not training by this stage of the week, it usually means you're not going to be playing in that upcoming game. So it looks like Peter Mamouzelos might be getting rested. He might be sitting out for the week, might be going back to Cup. I'm not too sure, but it does look like he will be sitting out for this one. As I said, hasn't trained all week. Hopefully not a big injury there for him. And if there is an injury there, we do wish him all the best with recovery for that one. But, I think Shaq Mitchell coming back in, I love his second phase play. He's got a little bit of an offload for him. He does have a certain amount of versatility as well, playing in the middle forwards, can play in the middle, can play on the edge if you really need him to. He's started one or two games on the edge as well. So he brings a little bit of versatility, but he just brings, really solid second phase play. When he gets into contact, he can quite easily function and offload there. We've seen it a lot in New South Wales Cup. I'm keen to see him come back into this side and just the toughness through the middle with him as well, adding a bit more size to this pack. I can't wait to see him come back into the team if that rumor is true. But as I said, Mamouzelos hasn't trained all week, so it does look like he is going to be taken out of this side. Now, just in terms of some of the matchups here, which we talk about usually when we do these preview podcasts for myself and Chaps, I really like this fullback matchup. Two young, unproven fullbacks in Jai Gray and KO Weeks going at it. KO Weeks, he's been sensational wherever you put him. He's usually a 6. But he has obviously been known to play a bit of fullback at Manly. Never played halfback before coming to the Raiders as well, which was very interesting. Goes into that halfback role. A lot of us are left scratching our heads, and he kills it there while Jamal Fogarty's out. He goes back into this fullback jersey, and he looks quite silky there. He doesn't usually have the stats to prove it, but he does look quite silky just in their spread sets. He's got great speed on him as well. He's probably one of the faster blokes in the competition, to be honest. But yeah, just a little bit of speed, great footwork, and really silky in their spread sets with the experience of playing in the halves. Can play anywhere really in the spine if you want him to. So he's going to be a threat. Jai Gray, for his size, he is so good in contact. Great footwork as well. He has a little bit of speed and nimbleness for his size as well, which is what you'd expect. But what you wouldn't expect, as I said before, is just the strength that he has, the ability to break tackles and create that second phase play for himself. He is very good at it. But a big thing for me that I sort of didn't really notice about his game before he came in, and particularly when he's been playing a lot of half in New South Wales Cup, his defense out the back there at fullback and just his cover defense, especially in some big moments against the Dolphins the other week. He is unbelievable. Really, really big performance the other week against the Dolphins, and then last week as well against the Tigers. There are a few cover tackles from him and from Jacob Gagai as well. They did very well to get back around there. Alex Johnston, I want to see him get a little bit more involved, take a few more carries out of his own end. That's a big thing that we sort of brought up in the review show when Brownie came back. Obviously, myself, Brownie, Chaps, we reviewed last week. Make sure you go ahead and have a listen to that. We also talked about the team list for this week before we do this preview. So make sure you go back and listen to that one. We also, in 2 podcasts ago, we go through Tallis Duncan, why he wears his headgear in the first half, takes it off in the second. Obviously, you would have seen that reel. It went pretty well on the socials. So make sure if you haven't seen that one already to go back and have a watch. But back to what I was saying, I can get sidetracked very easily. Alex Johnston, just want to see him get a little bit more involved coming out of his own end. And then obviously coming in for a few hit-ups as well. We've missed that in Alex Johnston's game. I have a little bit of a feeling, and I feel like this is why I didn't train on Tuesday, is I just have a little bit of a feeling he's not 100% confident in himself at the moment. Just coming back from a hamstring injury, I just feel like he doesn't have that full confidence back yet. Where he can go to full pelt. There was even a moment, I forget who he was running up against. It might have been the right-hand side of it was the right-hand side of the Tigers, but I'm just trying to remember who was on that side during this game. But he had an opportunity to run straight around them and burn them with his pace, and we've seen him do it a number of times with a number of different outside backs that he's gone up against. But instead of backing himself and running around, he chose to step back on the inside and take the tackle. And it's very rare that you see that from AJ. So I don't know if he has 100% confidence in that hamstring. I'm hoping that he does, and I'm hoping we do get to see a little bit more involvement from him in this game. But that's what I want to see from AJ, just coming in for a few more hit-ups, getting a little bit more involved, and getting those run meters up. You don't need to run over 100 meters to have a good game, but I just want to see him get a little bit more involved. And look, at the end of the day, wingers score tries, and he scored 2 of them last week. But as I said, I just want to see a little bit more involvement. Cody Walker, Jack Wighton, this combination, as I said, getting a lot more crisp. Jack Wighton with his running game has been fantastic. And you got 2 of currently, I think, the better running halves in the competition in Ethan Strange and Jack Wighton going at it. It is going to be a great matchup. But defensively, we've got to be switched on here for Ethan Strange. His ability to trick you with his eyes, make you think that he's going to spread out wide onto that left-hand side, which has been very successful. Obviously, 2 tries on that left-hand side as well for Huddy Young last week. You know how successful that left-hand side is. Just watching him on that left-hand side, because he goes to spread, he can step back on the inside and burn you with pace. He's got great pace, a great running game. I think he'd suit centre in a top 8 side very, very well. And I feel like if he was in a top 8 side, I'm not saying Canberra isn't one, but if he was in like a Melbourne Storm, a Penrith Panthers, these sort of sides, I think he'd probably be a centre, to be honest. I think he'd suit that very, very well. But he just suits that running 6, and he complements Jamal Fogarty so well. And we sort of said it on my podcast last week, just to wait and see over the next few weeks, these 2 combine a lot better is going to be really interesting. But them going against Cody Walker and Jack Wighton, the kicking game as well has got to be on. There's a lot of pressure on Jack Wighton with the kicking game at the moment, with Latrell Mitchell out of the side. Jamal Fogarty's kicking game was great in the first 15 or so minutes of that Canberra Raiders game last week. Obviously, things started to slowly fall apart for Canberra after 15 minutes of that game, but looking for them to be a lot more settled and to last a lot longer. We've got to defend them through the middle really well, but also match their intensity coming out of our own end as well, and just really plugging them in their own end with our kicking game. Jack Wighton, his kicking game has been great, but what's been better is the fact that when he kicks it, he'll chase it at 100 miles an hour, and then it just triggers the left-hand side defensive hours to also come in and chase as well and make that extra effort. And then all of a sudden, you've got that right winger trapped in his own end, because he loves to plug it to that right winger and just absolutely pummel them in their own end, Jack Wighton. So I want to see a little bit more of that, putting a guy like Jordan Rapana under a lot of pressure, because when Rapana's under pressure, he tends to make a lot of mistakes, and that's what I want to see us forcing out of him in this game. I think that it's going to be a really nice hooker battle as well. Damien Cook going up against Tom Starling. Tom Starling, over the past week, or at least just last week, had a blinder, played 60 minutes and played very, very good football, very dangerous out of marker, really improved the ruck speed in a few moments in that game for the Raiders last week, just with some of his carries out of dummy half, tricking the defense with his eyes, making them think that he's going to pass, and then coming out of dummy half and beating the marker. I think you've definitely got to watch Tom Starling just at a dummy half. He's got a lot of pace, and people forget how much pace he does have, because we just, he doesn't really back himself a lot. He hasn't backed himself a lot because he just hasn't been given that opportunity yet. Tom Starling, he's been that number 14, and every time there's been an opportunity for him to take that starting 9 spot, he's been chucked straight into that 14. They've chucked a Zach Wolford in there before him. They've chucked a Danny Levi in there before him. This is his opportunity, and I'm very excited to see how he really takes this on board over the next few weeks. But it is going to be a tough test for Damien Cook. And two very similar style of play hookers, the fast hookers out of dummy half. I want to see Damien Cook running a lot more out of dummy half and putting pressure on the forwards for the Canberra Raiders and getting them tired, especially around tired forwards. Damien Cook can be a punish at his best. I want to see Damien Cook running at a dummy half. I want to see Damien Cook at his best because I really do think that he can put this Canberra defence under a lot of pressure. Hosty coming back into the side. Look, I've had a lot of comments about this one and about Hosty. I think that he's a terrific ball runner. I really do. And he has a great ability to run the ball well, to find his front and to get a quick play the ball on that left edge, because it's particularly when you do have a lot of go forward on that left-hand side, you want it to be humming and you want it to be fast pace. Jacob Host has a great ability to get that quick play the ball, to find his front, but he also runs really good lines and he can run a really good decoy line, so much so that Cody can, or it used to be Cody, but Jackie Wighton can just pop him a short ball and he'll go straight through that gap. He's a terrific hole runner. So I want to see a bit of that from Hosty coming in, taking a few carries out of the middle. We've seen him play a middle role off the bench before too. So I just want to see him with some really crisp runs, some really nice hole running, and obviously quick play the balls as well. Tallis Duncan, same deal. Want to see a really solid performance and improving a little bit on the defense from last week, which I'm sure he will. I'm sure he's practiced a lot at training. Keon, big game for him, milestone game. I want to see a huge one from him through the middle, and I'm sure we will see it. We sort of spoke about it a few days back on the Team List Tuesday podcast, but we see this 200 meters from him every single week. I'm expecting 250. I'm expecting the big 250 because I think he's just going to go to another level in this milestone game, particularly with the stakes for this South Sydney side. They have to win literally every one of their next few games to get into the top 8. I think that Keon's going to really play to those stakes. He's also going to play up for this milestone game, and I think he's going to have a big one there through the middle. And I think he's going to play big minutes too. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays around 70, 75 minutes, big Keon. And then, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this bench rotation. As I said, big chance that Shaq Mitchell comes in for a straight swap for Peter Mamouzelos, and Havili plays that hooker role. That's what they've been training for the past few days. Havili's been jumping into hooker. Peter Mamouzelos hasn't been training or really seen at training at all, according to Chaps. It looks like Shaq's been training with the first grade side. So it looks like that change is going to be made by kickoff. You'll know a little bit more by the captain's run if you're going to head down to the captain's run. I'm sure that Chaps and Browny will be down there, so they'll have the scoop before anyone else. But you'll obviously hear it too when that scoop comes out. It's always on the Instagram, so make sure you go ahead and stay tuned for that. For me, as I said before, just reiterating, I think we've definitely got to watch our edge defense. I think we've definitely got to watch, the fullback battle here is going to be very interesting, and particularly if Kaya Week sets up one of his outside men, particularly Matsimoko, who has been extremely dangerous over the past few weeks. I think that there's going to be a little bit of trouble there. Jai Gray's cover defense has got to be tip-top. Matsimoko is just such a handful. He averages around 5 to 7 tackle passes per game. So the defense and it looks like it's going to be Michael Cheekham, sort of playing out of the position here, playing in the centres. He's going to have to be extremely switched on up against Matsimoko, because if Tomoko runs laps around him in this game, it could go pear-shaped very, very quickly. So the edge defense needs to be very switched on. Not just Matsimoko, but Xavier Savage as well. His ability to, he's a very smart footballer. He knows where to get himself in order to create numbers for his side. Obviously, with the experience of playing in that number 1 jersey, he's a great mover. And particularly sometimes as well, he'll get himself into that fullback roaming role in their spread sets off a scrum, and he'll just either run on the outside to create the numbers on the outside, or he'll cut back in. The center will get the ball and chuck him an inside ball so they get the gap back on the inside. He's very smart as to where to position himself, and I think that he's going to be a real threat as well. He's got great speed. So Savage and Timoko, definitely ones to watch here. Rapana's always one for the big moments too, so definitely one to keep an eye on there. But if you force enough errors out of Jordan Rapana, you sort of keep him out of the game. And then the last guys I want to talk about is the forwards. The forward battle is going to be big here. David Mawali going up against Joe Tarpanay, Papali'i going up against Sean Kepi, Smithies, the big Englishman, going up against Keon Kaloamatangi. Hoskins was great in his return last week. He's going to be one to watch off the bench if he gets a few more minutes. Ata Mariotta's always good. Trey Mooney's been outstanding, and he's kept his spot over the past few weeks with some great football off the bench. This forward back for Canberra, it is going to be a real test for us. And Hudson Young, off the back of 2 tries last week, he's going to be a handful as well for Tallis Duncan. Tallis Duncan needs to switch on in defence and have a big one here. Obviously, the big second half without the headgear, he needs to J up a little bit there. I think he will. I think he'll have a big game, Tallis, and I think he'll be all the better for last week, learning a lot from last week, playing pretty much 80 minutes, or not pretty much. He played 80 minutes last week. So, looking for him to have a big performance, big defensive performance too. Tallis Duncan. But yeah, look, these Canberra forwards, they're very mobile. They're very good in second phase. Canberra love an offload, and they love that second phase play. It's where Ethan Strange does his best work. It's where Jamal Fogarty does his best work with his ball playing and his kicking game. It is going to be a bit of a test, but I back South Sydney. It says that we're the underdogs here. I think we are, but I think that we will get the job done. I think that if we have a big enough defensive performance, I think that we can definitely beat Canberra here. And if we force a few mistakes out of Canberra, we've seen what's happened in past games when Canberra make a lot of mistakes. We can win this game of football quite easily, and I'm looking forward to it. Now, Chaps has got a multi for you guys to follow going into this game as well, which I'll read out for you. Chap said, my same game multi in this one is Souths 1-12. Anytime try scorers AJ and Jack Wighton for $14. $14 dues. Chaps, the value finder there. Perfect stuff. So make sure you go ahead and follow Chaps' multi. Souths 1-12 with Wighton and Alex Johnston to score. I'm going to go very similar boat here. I think that Wighton scores. I think that he's going to take this 6 battle to heart. I think he's going to have a big game in terms of his running in second phase play. I think that Mawali's going to have a big game as well through the middle there. You know what? I'm going to go with Keon to score in his milestone game. I'm taking a bit of Val, maybe off a Damien Cook kick out of dummy half or a short ball for him to score over the line. And then I'm going to take big Tane Milne in this one to score a try. And then I'm going to take Jackie Wighton as well. Jackie Wighton into Tane Milne into Keon Kaloamatangi with South Sydney head-to-head. Not taking any of this 1-12 crap. Sorry, Chaps. No offense, Chaps, but I'm not taking any of the 1-12 crap. I'm going head-to-head because I think that we can win either way, whether it be 1-12, whether it be 13+. If we force enough errors out of Canberra, we can get the job done in the big way here. Keon Kaloamatangi to score. I'm taking Jack Wighton to score. I'm taking Tane Milne to score. And then obviously South Sydney head-to-head. Getting a little bit greedy here. You'll have to find out the odds for that one on your own. But that would be the way that I'd be going here as a biased South Sydney fan. I can be biased on the Rabbitohs Radio podcast, but I'm a little less biased on my podcast. If you haven't followed it already, it's Big Les's League _ on Instagram. Big Les's League podcast. You'll look it up on YouTube. You're going to find it. We've got some great content coming out on there every single week. So make sure you go ahead and stay tuned for any of that. We've got some great content coming out on here. We obviously have the Team List Tuesday podcast coming out every single week. We also have a review and a preview of every single game for South Sydney during the season. Great content as well as a few reels as well. Obviously getting out into the community and doing some good stuff there. And obviously shout out to our major sponsors, Sight Pizza, Daryl Lee, obviously for helping us out there. The juniors for helping us out there as well. I've got some great games for the juniors on the weekend. I will get up the New South Wales Cup. Make sure you don't forget to watch a few of these games. Let me get up the draw. Should have probably prepared this beforehand, but I didn't. Apologies for that. Knock-on effect. We go up against the Canberra Raiders as well in New South Wales Cup. You got some great players to watch here. Fletcher Myers being one of them. He was a chance to debut this week if Alex Johnston was going to be out. Looks like that mail is now false. We did report it on the podcast a little bit, obviously, because he was training with the first grade squad, so there might have been a little bit of a fear that he was going to be out. He's going up against Nick Kotrick this week. Nick Kotrick and Albert Hopewade, it might look like. Jed Stewart's also in this side, son of Ricky Stewart, I believe, or maybe son or a nephew. Killed it in the trials. Canberra have a very, very good backline. So it is going to be a test for guys like Fletcher Myers, Brandon Mansfield-Webster as well there in the other centre. He was outstanding last week, so definitely one to watch there. Leon Tahau comes back into the side too on the wing, which is a huge in for us. Shaq Mitchell starts in the front row at the moment for Cup, but it looks like he'll be coming into first grade, so definitely expect a change there. I think we have a change in the halves too. Dean Hawkins' younger brother comes back in the number 7 with Dion at 6. Brent Hawkins known for his kicking game too, so that's going to be huge going up against a very flary outside backs driven Canberra Raiders side. Looking forward to that New South Wales Cup game as well. Congrats to the girls last week as well, playing some great footy. They have been playing some great footy too over the past few weeks. Good luck to them going into this week as well with their current matchup as well. Maddie Studden killing it there in the number 7. Brad Takarangi's sister as well doing some great things there. So, look, some great football from the Rabbitohs over the past few weeks in Cup. Or general footy in NRL, and obviously for the girls are killing it. The girls' game, we love watching it grow as well. And the girls are killing it, as I said, over there in that competition. So good luck to them. Good luck to our boys this weekend as well, both in Cup and in first grade. Make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to the Rabbitohs Radio podcast on YouTube. We are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well as all other podcasting platforms as well. My podcast is Big Les's League. Make sure if you haven't already to follow that on Instagram, Big Les's League underscore on Instagram or on Instagram, TikTok. We are also on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all podcasting platforms. So get onto us there. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Chaps and Browny should be back next time as well. So, again, you won't have to stare at too much of my ugly mug or hear my voice too much as well going into the next episode. But stay tuned for it. It is going to be an absolute cracker.